Hello everyone. Hello Carole and hello Lee.
Hello, Anton. Hello, Carole. Good to be with you, and greetings to our audience.
Anton and Lee, it's nice to be with you again. And I hope everyone who's been joining us for this series is finding a little value in it. I'm looking forward to talking about education and training next.
After having seen the discussion series session 1 until 4 from strategy to governance, risk management and compliance, may I welcome all the audience to the session number 5, where we are going to talk about the aspect of training and education related to the top 25 questions leadership must ask about GRC of artificial intelligence. Carole and Lee, in the paper that you co-write, i.e. the top 25 questions leadership must ask about GRC for artificial intelligence, you suggest that there are two main questions need to be addressed by leadership, which are related to training and education in this particular aspect. As such, I invite Carole to address the first question, which actually as follows. How are employees being trained to work effectively and safely with artificial intelligence? And what measures are in place to ensure their ongoing education and development? Please, in this case, your elaborations and kindly share also some real-world examples of how it is practically done by the organization, both commercial sector and also public sector. Please, Carole.
Okay, so clearly, for there to be effective training in this space, it's got to be tailored to the specific needs and the roles of different categories of employees in the organization, right? So you need to have specialized sessions. Leadership is going to need training on AI strategy. I think that's really important. And they're going to have to talk about how that use of AI aligns with organizational goals and kind of go through the process of practicing in making decisions about AI strategy. There might be simulations and practical exercises that get used by the employees who are going to be more hands-on, sort of your primary AI team. And you want to make sure that they get, feedback and guidance as they go through those sorts of exercises. And then you're going to have certain kinds of always available educational material, content to read, but also, user-friendly AI tools that themselves are useful for simulation and for learning experiences. So when you get to the content of the training, that's also going to vary by audience. So everybody should have an AI awareness program to basically understand AI, how it's being applied in the organization, and the potential impacts, both on the business and on them, the individuals that are being trained. And here too, you want to use some real-world experience or examples. You're going to want to have an element of, I would say, an ethics and bias training. These are some of the most important aspects regarding decision-making around the use of AI that each individual employee is going to have. So you want to talk about, what are the responsible AI practices? And I think also some training around what I'll call data literacy. How do you understand data and handle data, and really emphasizing the importance of data quality when you're building and utilizing and training AI models. All of these things are really important in the training process. I'd like to also add that this sounds like a lot of training, and it may well be. And that presents a challenge for leadership, right? Because your employees are being trained constantly on all kinds of things, and it really can be a lot of overload. So what's important here is to make sure that only the people who need training at depth are getting that everybody's getting a higher level of what they need to know, and that follow-up or refresher courses or documentation is available to them when they need it, kind of point-in-time training. So something I've seen in the past that has arisen, for example, in the area of anti-corruption training. There have been systems that would identify when a person and their devices have landed from an airplane in a country where that anti-corruption training is particularly important as they are engaging in a meeting in that location. And a reminder about that training might then pop up on their device because it knows that they're in that location. So I can foresee that something like that might arise as people begin to utilize different aspects of AI, that a reminder comes to them about risks or security concerns as they're about to, put data into an AI model to train it, for example, or go to ChatGPT to ask a question that is potentially something where they could be improperly sharing company data. So I see that as a potential in the future. But in the meantime, being concerned about how much training you impose on people is a valid concern and one that needs to be addressed.
Thanks, Carole, for the answer. Now, Lee, I would like to invite you to address the question number 2, which actually as follows. How are we training employees and other stakeholders on compliance risks and consideration related to AI? And what resources are available to help them understand these risks and their responsibilities in mitigating them? Along with your explanation in addressing these particular questions, would you please, Lee, give some example of how this question is practically being addressed by the organization and how it is being handled in corporation and in the public sector or government body respectively? Please, Lee, share your thought.
Well, this is particularly challenging, Anton, because AI compliance is still in the very early stages. Regulatory risk is high because the laws, rules, and regulations are still being formulated. Now, while existing requirements, existing laws regarding data privacy and security apply to AI, there are no comprehensive AI laws or compliance frameworks in force yet. And there are some industry standards. For example, the NIST, the U.S. National Institute for Standards and Technology, has an AI standard. And as we discussed in the earlier session regarding AI compliance, the most comprehensive AI law, the EU's AI Act, has been approved, but is not yet in force. So what should we expect to see in the training regarding AI compliance risks and considerations? Well, it'll need to cover the relevant laws, regulations, rules, and standards, and I think very importantly, the changing regulatory landscape and what we're likely to see in the future. It should cover the nature and type of AI compliance risks and how to identify and assess them. And it also should cover how to mitigate AI compliance risks. Now, most of all, it should address the organization's AI strategy and procedures, particularly with regard to compliance. I suggest a values-based approach to embed risk intelligence and a compliance framework. But this part is so important because the regulations are still being developed and they're mostly outcome-based. That's what we're seeing. They're about objectives to meet. They're not generally prescriptive as to the precise methods to employ. Now, both businesses and public sector organizations are taking various steps to get out ahead of the education for their employees and stakeholders. They're using training and workshops about ethical considerations and compliance risks associated with AI, and they're developing their own AI governance framework so that they are ahead of the game. They're also using online resources and e-learning platforms and developing external partnerships, bringing in experts to help with the training. Now, in the public sector, we're seeing some additional focus on policies regarding how AI will affect the publics, their external stakeholders and constituents. We're seeing a focus on educating the stakeholders on the benefits of using AI in public services and also the risks. And we're seeing a lot of collaboration with academic organizations and think tanks.
Thank you, Lee. And to the question number 2. And now I would like then actually to address to both of you, Carole and Lee, as the additional question to this particular aspect, training education. Since now we talk about training for employees and other stakeholders, perhaps you may have something to say about how the board and or senior management of organization supposed to be trained. As such, who's supposed to chart the pathway for the competency development as regards to the use of artificial intelligence within the organization? Please, Carole, to give first your view and Lee to go after Carole's answer. Please.
A really interesting question, Anton. I'm going to say there are three primary areas that leadership, and by that I mean the board and the executive team, should be trained on when it comes to AI. The first is, as I have previously mentioned, they should have training about strategy, how they define and strategically integrate the use of AI. What does its use mean for the organization's long-term goals, its competitive advantage? How do they find opportunities for AI adoption in various business functions and so on? Second, I think it's very important for them to be trained and really understand the ethical considerations and the risk management considerations around the use of AI. Bias mitigation, transparency, data privacy concerns, cybersecurity threats. All of this is an area that it's important for leadership to really understand so they can establish that set of governing rules and decision-making guidance that can help ensure responsible use of AI. And the third is one we don't talk about very much, but it's helping them to understand how to measure ROI and value from AI initiatives. So what are the key performance indicators for assessing the impact of AI on business outcomes? And what are methodologies that they can use to evaluate the value created by AI projects, both in terms of cost savings and in terms potentially of revenue generation? I think these are the three primary areas that leadership team should receive training for.
Carole, thanks for the answer. And now, Lee, please, I invite your point of view.
It's such a great question, Anton, and thanks for your great insights, Carole. I just want to emphasize one thing, and that's the need for a future focus. Leaders need to understand not only where things are going, but how fast things are changing. They need an exponential mindset and an anticipatory perspective. Science fiction is becoming science fact. And as the visionary Peter Diamandis titled his best-selling book, "The future is faster than you think." AI is an exponential technology that is advancing at a pace that defies our ability to comprehend. And so I would emphasize that the AI education menu for board directors and senior executives have a healthy portion focused on what will be possible in the not-too-distant future. I know it's going to feel a lot like building the airplane while you are flying it. Now, what form will the education and training of directors and senior executives take? Well, in addition to AI literacy programs, workshops, case studies, regulatory updates, and engagement with experts, I would strongly recommend that all leaders start using AI themselves, if they're not already doing so. AI is accessible right now. You don't need to be a data scientist or a machine learning engineer to be able to appreciate the power of AI at this point in time.
Thanks, Lee, for the last answer. Now, audience, as we come to the end of discussion, allow me to express our sincere thanks to both of you, Carole and Lee, in this case, for your kind sharing with us.
Thanks, Anton. Thanks for your leadership and guiding these sessions. I'm sure our audience is getting great value from your investment here. Thank you.
Hey, I hope that everything I contributed today is useful to you, and I look forward to seeing everybody again in our next session. Bye.
And to the audience, see you all again in the next discussion about the aspect of data and security. See you all.